The following is a KPB Media Works production.
Choose your fighter.
What is up, guys? We are back for another episode of KPBCast. This is Rodimus Prime here, one of your favorite hosts. And I want to make sure that if you're not watching it today on Twitch or you're catching it on YouTube, we have different outlets where you can catch on just listening to us via our podcast stations on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. So make sure you check that out in case you don't want to see my ugly face. But one face you should see is this pretty face of this lovely lady just continuing the series of powerful Black women in the community just coming in and doing their thing. I want to introduce you to Moxxie, aka Melanie. How's it going today? How you doing?
Great. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No problem. No problem.
I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. I kind of want to. I usually just kind of usually start with the origin and stuff like that. Look, I'm kind of going to reverse it. Like, how are you feeling today? In general, how are you dealing with the current climate of the world? You know, we've all been affected by COVID, and just like, you know, all of us, like, and not just within the community, but like just personal, like our personal lives. Like, how have you been able to manage that? Like, what have you been doing to keep yourself kind of just on the straight and narrow and just kind of stay focused?
Okay, so when COVID first hit, I was working on set, and we had newly heard about it, because I guess it was some people that had caught it, and it was stuff like that because we're in such close quarters all the time, and it really kind of like devastated my industry. Theater people are still not working, and like live event people are still not working. Which is a bummer. But during quarantine, I really just kind of like stayed to myself. I hung out, after stuff kind of started opening up again in Chicago, I would hang with like close friends. I have seen probably the same 8 people for the past year, like in person. So, I watched a lot of stuff. I like read a lot. I, drew and painted and, kind of like I did a lot of costumes,
Right. You're just trying to
cosplay.
just stay sane in this like crazy world. Right?
Yeah. I tried to stay away from my parents because both of my mother is in her late 60s and my father is in his mid 70s.
Mm-hmm.
My father, does have pre-existing conditions that would make him susceptible to that. So I try to, avoid being around them as much as possible, which was a bummer. Like even on Thanksgiving, I had come over and I didn't even eat with them
Right.
because we didn't know anything. So yeah, when we found out about COVID, um, I think we had like 2 months left of the season and everything got forced shut down. So it was like alarming for everyone because it was crazy. Like I would see the videos of people with the toilet paper, and I mean, it was nuts. And so we got force wrapped, and everyone was just kind of like in this state of like, what the fuck is happening? And it was scary. It seemed like it was the end of the world. Like it was wild, and I was dealing with that and compoundly dealing with like some personal things that I have been going through, and it just kind of added on to that. And like I was happy that I have finally like gotten a therapist during that time too. She helped a lot, and she was a great person, so that helped. It was something to look forward to every week. Then work finally came back last November, and they've been super strict with everything. Like we test every single day, even days that we're not scheduled to work. We test, we PCR, we rapid test. I mean everything. So it's a we have to wear face shields and face masks. They've like separated us by zone. So like people that are around the actors which is namely the vanities or hair, wardrobe, makeup, and the director, people like that. We have to like at all times wear a face shield and a face mask. So, imagine working. And in the beginning, some people would be so overwhelmed that it was people like passing out.
Right.
So, because it's not like we're wearing a face shield and a face mask and standing in place or sitting at a desk.
You're running
We're
around.
wearing a face
Yeah.
shield and a face mask and running around all day, right? In 30-degree weather,
Oof.
snow, blizzards, rain, negative temperatures. It doesn't matter. We're filming.
Now,
So
let me just.
we don't,
I'm sorry. I want to
yeah.
stop you right there real quick because we got into
Mhm.
like that section, but for our audience, like, what are you talking about here?
Oh,
You
yeah,
are,
yeah.
What is it that you do in this particular situation?
Okay, so my profession is I am a hair and makeup artist for film and television. So I've worked on commercials, I've worked on movies, I've worked on indie movies, I've worked music videos, short films, television shows. I've really kind of done it all. I've done photo shoots, I've done theater, I've done everything. So yes, that is my real life job.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Real
Thank
quick
you.
before we get back to it, I used to work for an off Broadway theater company in the city years ago. I did like
Awesome.
I started as an usher, and then I did ticket sales, and then I was an assistant house manager for a
Yes.
little bit. And you come
Oh my
across,
gosh.
yeah, I've done that stuff, and you come across the celebrities, right, that either act in the show or come to see their peers, right. So I always had this
Yep.
thing, right, where I was like, who who are the people that society may interpret as mean people because maybe the roles they play and they're really nice, and who are like the celebrities that are probably nice, but because of your experience, you know that they're not so nice.
Okay, so
If you can divulge.
I can say yes, I can say the first thing, but for the sake of like it is certain things that I like contractually cannot say
Right, of course, yes.
because of my union and the networks and it like it's just you're just not supposed to do that.
Okay, so let's not
But
talk about the bad people. Let's talk
so
about the good
I
people.
can about the good people. So I can say one that was misconceived. Um oh man, it was 3 summers ago. This was actually my first like network TV job. I got hired to be the key makeup artist, which is the basically the assistant department head. So I got hired to be the key makeup artist for this Comedy Central show called Southside,
Mhm.
which there is going to be a second season and it's going to be on HBO Max, and it's a
Okay.
really funny show. It's like an all black cast. The crew and cast are all from Chicago. So like all the special guests were like people from Chicago. Um and we had an episode, it was like kind of mid in the season where they have like this like golf party. It's like this golf event and it was hysterical. And one of the people that came was Lisa Ray.
Okay.
And I know that she gets kind of like a mixed bag of like how people feel about her, but I mean, she was there with us for a few days. She was really nice. So I think that that's kind of like a misconceived person, but she was very sweet to me.
Mhm.
Because I would go and touch her up, and I mean, she seemed to have a great time on the show.
Right.
It was a lot of fun, and in that same episode, Kel Mitchell was also there, who was like my like childhood crush, and it was like just so cool to meet him because I got to do his makeup, and he was just so nice. Like he was a lot of fun. He was such a positive person. He was so funny, and I mean, yeah. So that was great. Um, we met Ed Lover and Earthquake
Okay. The
on
comedian, right?
another episode, huh?
Okay, the comedian, correct?
Yes, the
Yeah. Okay.
comedian.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. And they were so funny because they were just telling like stories about like old times when they would hang out together. I mean, it was hysterical.
Mhm.
Like they were just like natural. They were literally just playing themselves.
Right.
And that was the thing that was funny about working on that show because the celebrities that came in to guest star were literally just themselves.
Right.
They weren't like playing, the only one that played a character was Little Rel, who's he was in Get Out, and he had his own show on Fox for a while. He's really funny too.
Yes.
And he's in a few episodes because he's like a reoccurring additional character.
Okay. All
So
right.
yeah, I mean, the show is on HBO Max now. So if you all get a chance, check it out because it's funny as hell. I had a really good time working on that show.
I think
So yeah.
when we end our podcast, I want to get from you a little short list of like your credits, and so I can throw that on the end and stuff like
Oh,
that. I think that'd be
absolutely.
just a little pretty cool to have. For me, I had some surprises in terms of celebrities. Like,
Okay.
so I'm an older dude. I'm in my early 40s, and we
I would have not guessed.
yeah,
Like
secret. Oh my
seriously.
god, yeah. It's the gray hair. They give it away. The gray hairs give it away. Um, I don't know if you remember or knew like this 80s actress, 80s, 90s. Her name is Heather Locklear. She did like
Of
of
course.
course. So it's you say it today and some people are like who? Like they don't
Ooh,
know.
oh my God.
Yeah, there's the young crowd. But so all the roles
Right.
she's played and stuff like that, right? So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I had to go interact with her one time 'cause I had to tell her she had to move her seat, right? And I was like, oh my god, like
Oh
I gotta do,
no.
and in that industry, it's a bit of like racism, and they don't want to, especially they don't want to hear from a black guy about anything because I've dealt with crazy
Yep.
patrons as an assistant manager. So I came over, and let me tell you, like, she was the sweetest person in the universe. Like, I sat there and
Oh.
like I ended up having like a half-hour conversation with her before the show started, and like it was just I was like that you played the most horrible roles, and I couldn't figure out like how you're just so loving and sweet, and like I really appreciate you. She's like, oh, thank you,
Yes.
and stuff. So it's crazy. Now I'm not bound to any contracts or NDAs. So I can talk about the bad. Like,
Yeah. Oh, go for it. Oh, I'm interested. I'm so curious.
it's the worst person by far that like I think if I even say this like people would not believe me is Alfonso Roberto. Alfonso Roberto,
Wow.
yes, Carlton Banks. As I have to separate the two. I have to separate
Wow.
the two. I think he is an asshole, like one thousand
What?
percent. Yes.
Really?
So okay, story real quick. There was a show called Wit that HBO ended up picking up and making a movie out of it, and it's a monologue
Uh,
about a cancer patient who has I think it's pancreatic cancer stage 4, and
okay.
the character was played by Judith Light from Who's the Boss and stuff like from back in the day and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
so he came down to visit her, and like he like complained from the get how like there was a lack of like refreshments in the stand, there wasn't alcohol, and then like he wanted like a whole tour of the building and be able to go directly backstage, and there were certain protocols that we had and we didn't allow that. So and he
Right.
kept demanding, and I'm like, you know what, I got you, I'll take care of you. I basically led him to like the side entrance where like the patrons wait to get an autograph, and made him wait for her to
Mm.
get ready and leave. Like I did not.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Was he pissed?
she was pissed. Like she was like mad. Like Judith, like she's like, who did it? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and I said, oh, it was me, but I
Oh.
forgot he was out there. Oh my god, like blah, blah, blah. Total lie, total
Yeah,
lie.
you're like, I'm just trying to do my job,
Yeah,
miss.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, P Diddy, another one, jerk. But I guess you kind of knew that.
Ooh, I've heard interesting stories because I want to hear your story, and then I'll tell you one that I've heard, but it was like from a different perspective because this woman was like his personal makeup artist for like 10 years or something like that.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I'm very curious to hear. That's
Um,
not the first I've heard.
for us, we had a show called, I believe it was called Tap Dogs. Savion Glover was the tap dancer.
Oh,
So we
wow.
had him, and he came down to see him, and like kind of the same thing with like the whole Carlton, like I want this, I want that, like we don't have that here, like you know,
Right. This
and
also isn't your
it's
show.
like you obviously didn't come here, I guess, to get like a VIP treatment, I guess, because you're Puff Daddy, and I'm guessing his like
Right.
height of his like basically Biggie died at this point. And so it's like 99,
Oh wow.
height of his album, Puff Daddy and the Family, so he's big money now, And I was like,
Right.
I'm not here
It's
for it.
bad boy.
Right,
Bad boy
it's
for life.
bad boy for life, So that was it. Like it's more lesser known actors and actresses that can go on either end, but that's kind of like the consensus you get when you work kind of in the industry. I guess not on your level, of course, but I had a taste of it. So
I can't. So one of the music videos I worked on, this might have been 4 years ago. It was like 3 or 4 years ago. I worked on a Kevin Gates music video,
okay,
and he was like so nice. Like him and his wife Drea were there, and they were like both the nicest people. He like stopped and spoke to people. He would like take pictures with people. I mean, it was really cool. Not like, I mean, the crew, we obviously don't do that,
right,
especially if it's like a one shot thing. Like that's unprofessional.
right, yeah, of course,
But but if it's like, it's different like on a television show because you with them all the damn time. Like they kind of become your family too. So it's different taking pictures with like the actors that you work with on shows versus like a one shot thing.
mm-hmm.
And so, but yeah, no, he was super nice. He would like stop and like take pictures with like people that were just in the neighborhood because we like filmed in the hood. And
Right.
and he was just walking around like he wasn't Kevin Gates. Like it was, I mean, he was really cool though. He was very nice. And I worked with the music video AD. He had some stories for us that was super interesting that I will probably have to tell you like off the cuff
Off the
because I'm
yeah.
not trying to make
Yeah,
no enemies in the industry. But he was like he was a music video AD for like a ton of people. I
mm-hmm.
mean, any big name you can think of now, he has directed a music video for them.
Okay.
So he has some stories, and
I'll
it
bet.
was like, oh my god. But yeah, Kevin Gates was cool. I'm trying to think of who else. I've worked with Eric LaSalle.
Okay.
Eric LaSalle directed Chicago PD for a very long time. He recently actually just left to start his own stuff because I think he's going to like release a series of mystery novels and
Okay.
I mean, he's doing a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, but Eric was so sweet. I would work with him because last season I would kind of go back and forth in between Fire and PD,
Mm-hmm.
and
oh, so you work on those shows as well.
PD,
You work on
oh
those
yeah,
shows.
oh
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah. I've worked.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I've worked on all of them. I've never worked on Chicago Med, but I know people that work on all three of the shows essentially, like on set, in the office, however. But yeah, Eric LaSalle was super nice. I'm trying to think of like other people. I worked on another show that was like a one shot show. It was like a mini series, and it was called Redline. And one of the main actors that played the girl's father, he was in ER for a million years, and he was also super freaking nice. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I've never really had like experiences with celebrities or like local celebrities, news anchors, none of that, where it was just like they screamed at me or I had a super uncomfortable situation. I've never had that. I've dealt with that more honestly with regular people because when I worked in salons, they would be fucking lunatics. And I would be like, excuse me, I'll be like, what is the deal?
What is
like
your problem?
Right, what's happening? And so yeah, it's a really fascinating industry. And okay, I do have a funny celebrity story. So when I worked at the opera, I used to work at the Lyric Opera. I worked there for a long time. And then that was how I got into the union from building up those hours. So when I first was working at Lyric, Lady Gaga would like come to Chicago a lot. I think she like had a house here or something like that, and she loved the opera. And she would like show up to the opera like in disguise. And people that would be like on the main level, because the main level at the opera, it's the backstage, and then there are doors that lead you onto the stage, so you can access the stage from the employee door.
Okay.
And yeah, so she would like show up in disguise, and it was so funny. And I mean, I get it because it's like you're Lady Gaga,
Right.
so I
So
make
so
it
you
sweet.
guys would know
But
that it's
no,
her?
that was just super funny.
I'm
Huh?
sorry. I'm sorry. You guys would know that it's her, and just kind of keep it on the hush.
People, yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, because even I mean, I think she's like 5 foot something. She's extremely short,
Mhm.
so it's kind of like. Yeah, and she's very tiny,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like, yeah, you know it's her, even though she does do disguise. Because
Right.
I've seen her go on award shows and stuff in disguise, so she's done it frequent times. But I mean, clearly, she enjoyed doing it to come to the opera, which I always thought was super cute. I thought it was hysterical.
Right. So tell me about Chicago. Like, I know Chicago. I personally have never had the opportunity to actually stay in Chicago.
Mhm.
I've missed common breaker opportunities as an FTC person. And
Oh
yeah, I
man,
know. It's like, especially the last couple of years before the pandemic, where like the hotels were like, be sold out
booked
real quick. Yeah, I'm like,
immediately.
and like,
Oh my gosh, yeah,
I be fancy. I don't want to travel nowhere. Like, let me just, if I can't get to the venue hotel, like it's an issue for me, kind of thing.
yeah,
Um,
I get it,
and then
I get it.
and then other than that, it was like maybe stopping at O'Hare to go somewhere else, like to LA or something. It's like, so I've never really been to
Yes,
Chicago. My only Chicago
yes.
experience is like Uno's Pizza in the city, which is like probably not good
Oh my
Chicago
God, yeah,
pizza.
Pizzeria Uno is really good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I know
Um,
Chicago is kind of like, it's bustling, especially in like that industry, right? Because it's like, what is it
oh
like?
yeah.
It's like Hollywood, and then I think New York has a bit of a presence. Is Chicago a bigger presence in
Yes.
that industry than New York? It sounds like it to me.
You know what? I've met people that have come from New York to work here, because like when Candyman was here, I know it was LA people, but then it was like also some New York people, and I've never known of any major production in New York beyond Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And like New York has a huge Broadway presence.
Right.
Even and Chicago has a big theater presence as well, because we have Second City. We have a ton of theaters, Steppenwolf, tons of theaters, Chicago Theater, and yeah, but New York, I feel like, is focuses a lot more on Broadway than production. And obviously, you all have Saturday Night Live, which
Right.
is clearly epic. But it is interesting how the cities kind of connect, because a lot of major people, and I don't think a lot of people know this, a lot of major people that have become famous off of Saturday Night Live studied at Second City Chicago.
Okay.
And Second City Chicago is an improv program that's kind of like the elite improv program, period. Like if you're interested in going into comedy, sketch, stand up, any of that, like people go through Second City and they go on Saturday Night Live. You can actually go to Second City Chicago's website and look at their list of graduates. Like it's actually phenomenal. How many people like went through there. Like it was people I didn't even know until I looked at it some years ago. And it's real fascinating. Chicago is a beautiful city, and it is, it's a really misunderstood city,
Okay.
because I grew up here, I was born here, I've been here my whole life. I've traveled to other places, but I've never lived anywhere else.
Right.
And it's kind of like, if you can survive Chicago winter, then you are kind of honorarily a Chicagoan, because Chicago winter is brutal as hell, and it's no joke. We have a couple of seasons. One of them is winter, and the other one is like summer. So it's kind of like, if it's not winter, it's summer,
Oh my
or it's
God.
raining.
Yeah.
But like when it's the summertime here, it is gorgeous. Like pre-COVID, we have street festivals, we have food festivals, we have food truck festivals. There's a beer festival here,
Okay.
countless concerts. It's a ton of stuff to do in the city. And it kind of like makes you not want to leave Chicago during the summer, because there's so much stuff happening. And a lot of it too is not even like super expensive stuff. Like you can do free stuff in Chicago in the summer, and have
Right.
a blast.
Mm.
We have a ton of beaches, you know, all of that stuff. And I know James always jokes with me and likes to say that Chicago beaches don't count as the beach because it's Lake Michigan
It's
or
late.
whatever, James.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you know, Chicago's a beautiful city, and obviously people know because they hear from the headlines that we have a lot of crime. And I think a lot of, okay, I am from the south side of Chicago. I still live on the
Southside?
south side of Chicago. South side, exactly. White Sox, exactly. So, you know, Chicago's crime, a lot of it, I honestly believe, because okay, our crime in comparison, like for example, to like our sister city, Detroit.
Right.
Detroit, they have crime, but a lot of people that live in Detroit own guns
Okay.
legally, I'll
Mm.
say. You know, and Chicago's issue with crime is a lot of it. Chicago is gangland.
Right.
Like we have the gang, we have mob, we have, oh my goodness, mob of any ethnicity you can think
So,
of is here.
Irish,
Polish,
Russian,
Chinese,
Italian.
Irish, Italian, Japanese.
Got the
Like, I'm not
triad.
even
Oh my
exaggerating.
God, they're all out there.
Yes, triads. No,
Ooh,
seriously.
wow.
Chicago got so many gangs. There are MS-13s in Chicago.
Oh my God.
Like
It's a
that,
melt.
it is crazy.
It's a melting pot of
It's
like
crazy.
of gangsterness. Like
Melting
that's
pot of gangs.
you know.
Yeah, and
I'm not gonna name anybody. I'm not gonna say it, but I saw a
yeah,
Facebook
yeah,
post from someone that's to say connected to like that Midwest FGC, and
yeah.
you know, they kind of like, you know, I'm from New York, right? And
Uh-huh.
while I get it, like we've had our phases, we could probably more or less say like gangs started here in like the U.S. kind of, and then,
True.
you know, so we definitely know about our gangs and our situation. You know, I grew up in the Bronx, South Bronx,
Yes.
rough spot. I made it through, thank God. And like,
Yeah, seriously. I've
yes,
heard that the Bronx road.
listen, it's actually like the stats are bad. Okay, I'm not supposed to be. I'm not
Wow.
supposed to be here today, according to stats. You know, or not have a good chance
Oh
anyway.
my God.
You know, and it's gotten worse.
Do
You
you
know,
guys still currently have active gangs in New York?
yeah, we do. We have sects of like, you know, Blood and Crips and stuff like that, and like, you know,
Okay.
they're little you know, off spawns of that and stuff. New gangs, it happens. But
Yeah.
for a long story short, this person kind of like said like basically what to say to paraphrase. Oh, New York ain't gangster. Like you got cities and tall buildings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, cities and tall buildings don't mean nothing. It's just more people to be
It
gangster
don't,
with.
because we
Like
got tall buildings.
right, and I'm just like, what's the equation in that? And like, I'm not trying to belittle your situation or your experience, but don't belittle mine.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like, you know, we all share those same attributes, right? That toughness and whatever, and like to say
Yes.
that you could even walk away from that is always a big thing, right? And not be succumbed to like, you know, dad being killed,
Crime.
dad being in prison, you know,
Yep.
or any combination of that, and you know, being strung out on drugs, all those things you got to worry about, you know.
Yeah,
You know,
that.
yes, I saw crack vials on my floor and like 10 years old. I saw someone get their head blown off when I
Yeah.
was 8. So don't tell me like what's,
Hell yeah.
you know, what's gangster, what's not gangster, like, you know, for real. But you know, I just find that interesting. And I don't ever try to compare cities because that's not something you want to do. Is that where do you?
No, it's not, because it's
You know,
not fair.
it's
'Cause
not
every place is an economical difference.
right.
That's like comparing Chicago to Detroit.
Right.
It's a drastically different thing. Even though we are sister cities,
Right.
they are very similar to us because their ghettos there look like our ghettos in Chicago.
Of course.
So you know it is very similar, and it's kind of like if you didn't grow up in that and you're not from there, you should not speak on it.
Right.
And people that try to false flag and do that weird shit, and I feel like a lot of people in FGC do that.
Oh man.
This will probably be the only this might be the only little bit of shade I will throw about FGC things. But I do feel like a lot of people from the FGC, because to be real, locally even, a lot of our scene people are from the suburbs or they are not from here.
Right.
So, or they live on the north side. So and the North Side got ghettos too, but it's
Right.
different.
Yes.
North Side ghetto different than the South Side, different than the West Side, and yet we have like it, and okay, also in Chicago, like the Hispanic gangs and the Black gangs don't get along. Like for some of them, initiations be for them to kill an opposing member,
Right.
of a different race gang to get in. I mean, all kind of stuff. And we have like a lot of like little sects and stuff like that. Like I guess to make it like popular for people, the rapper King Von that was from here that just got killed
Yeah.
a few months ago in Atlanta, which was tragic because he was so young. He lived okay, so he's from 63rd, which they call the O Block.
Okay.
That is all real. All the stuff he would talk about in his songs is real.
It's real.
And that entire lifestyle is real. The
Right.
shit that Chief Keef would talk about, all of that shit is real. And Chief Keef actually lived where his grandmother's house was like not far from behind me, because kitty corner for me is trap houses.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, I grew up seeing prostitutes, and I still see prostitutes in my neighborhood now.
Right.
And it is just, I mean, you see violence, you see cop cars, you see people getting yoked up, you see people getting shot. I've been held up at gunpoint.
Right.
I was held up at gunpoint one time coming home from Atlanta with my friend Julie. This was before the FGC, so this was like a leisure trip to Atlanta.
Right.
So people don't be knowing, like
don't.
I've seen people get robbed on the train. There was one time I was on the Blue Line. I was probably still in school at this time. I might have still been in college, and I think I was maybe 22. I was with my friend Brian, and we were sitting on the train quiet. And by the way, the Blue Line is the train that goes to O'Hare and goes to the suburbs, Forest Park and Oak Park. So it kind of ain't nowhere safe. Crime happen everywhere in Chicago. It don't matter. So we're on the Blue Line, and there's this group of girls. They looked like maybe teenage girls, maybe like 19, 18, 19, but they looked like they could have been teenage girls. They were standing over this Middle Eastern woman. And she's like minding her business. She's like reading a book or something. And these girls, out of nowhere, snatched this woman by her head and started beating her in her head and tried to drag her off the train. And everybody was like in shock. And we're kind of like, what the fuck? It's like, stop. They had to physically pull these girls off this woman. Nothing had transpired before that.
Right.
It was silence. And then she fucking yoked this woman up. And they tried to drag her off the train, and they had luckily got the girls, hands off of this woman, and then helped the woman back up. But I mean, shit like that. Yeah. Seeing pools of blood on the train. I mean, all kind of shit. We had a guy. This was maybe 6 years ago or something like that, and he was like a serial rapist, raping lonely women on the train. And they would put out alert to be like, don't get on train cars by yourself. Get in train cars close to the conductor or with other people there.
Right.
Don't sit far away from other people. It was crazy. I think he had raped like 10 women before they caught him.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, Chicago is not for the faint of heart.
Right.
And neither is New York.
Neither is New York.
New York.
We had like similar situations. We had a guy in the 90s. They called him the Hammer Man. Like he was literally walking around with a hammer and just cracking women in the head. And for whatever reason, he never killed these women. He would just severely damage them, maybe critical condition kind of things. But if you were a male that tried to stop him, he would kill the male. Like he would relentlessly beat the male until the male died with the hammer.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that was a scary thing because it happened right in my neighborhood. I was like in junior high when it happened, and I'm just like, I'm about to mind my business right now. Like I'm not. If I see you do it with a hammer, I'm going the other way because that's and they eventually caught him. Like he stopped doing it. He did it for like 2 weeks, and must have got like five
Wow.
women. He stopped for like 2 months and did it again 2 more times, and then they finally caught him. You know,
Good. Oh
and
my God.
but like yeah, we see people don't even know that unless you live in these neighborhoods. Like these aren't like
Right.
nationally broadcasted stories. Uh,
It's not.
it's not, and
Because they're even in Chicago, we've had a string of unsolved missing Black women.
oh
Uh, Girls, women, teenagers, they're
yeah.
all Black.
Mhm.
And I think the last that it was tallied, it was like in the 60s.
Ugh,
Like
yeah,
it's that many. And it does not get televised.
that
I
happens
mean,
here.
it's terrifying
That happens
and it's
here.
very fucking real. And
Hmm.
no one talks about it.
I wish there was
So,
more awareness brought to these kind of issues, that affect our community. And that it's crazy
yeah,
that like, you know, this is not like freaking Avengers, Endgame.
right.
Or like young women are disappearing and not coming back with no trace. Like what's going on? And
What's happening?
why is this not
And if they're
front
found,
page?
they're dead.
Yes.
So, it's horrible.
It's horrible. But let's get a little lighthearted.
Lighter, right?
Yeah, let's get a little lighthearted.
Yes.
We got in here for like the first 30 minutes, and we don't know much about you outside of this
Oh my gosh.
makeup and crazy world we call Chicago. So tell me about
Chicago,
you know
yes.
tell me about Melanie.
Um,
Who was Melanie? From birth. How did she start? What's she like outside of all this? Outside
all
of the
right.
FGC and like makeup and like who is she?
Yes. So I was born April 9th, 1986. So this upcoming birthday, I'm gonna be 35, y'all.
Okay.
Big milestone, excuse me.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up.
Your mic's a little like faded.
Oh, did it? Oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you a little bit. You just sound like you're super distant.
Oh no. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened because I haven't like. Well, let me try to unplug this. Is this better?
You still sound a little faded. Let me.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
You sound like you're like doing like a radio remix. Like,
Oh, it's probably the internet connection.
is
Can
it?
you still can you still hear me now?
Yeah, I can
Is
hear
it
you.
kind of
I can hear you. It just sounds like a little. I don't know. We'll try to work
faint?
through it. Yeah, we'll try to work through it. I can hear you. It just kind of like it sounds like there's a filter in front of it now. Like kind of like like
Oh,
we're on a
that's
phone
weird.
call. Yeah, like we're on a phone call. That like
Oh,
phone.
wait. I think I know what it is. Okay. How about now?
Kind of the same still.
Kind of the same.
All right,
Sorry, I'm twisting my camera. I'm trying to get the.
no problem. While she works through that, just want to remind you guys that you can catch all of our episodes on the different platforms here via podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Google Podcasts. So make sure you check that out.
Okay. How is it now? Is it still the same?
It's still the same, but we'll work through it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you. So now where were we? We're talking about Melanie. So yes,
Yes.
talking about.
So I was born April 9th, 1986, in Chicago, and yeah, I was born I think at like 6 o'clock in the morning, something like that, and I am the only girl of my parents, and I have three older brothers. So I'm the baby and the only girl. So
Okay.
growing up like that was really interesting because I I was definitely like a tomboy because one of my brother's birthday is the day after mine. So his birthday is April 10th, and he was kind of like my twin years after, like so. Yeah, I mean, I was definitely like tomboy, but then I loved like glam stuff too, and I got a lot of that from my mom, and both of my parents are very like they always love style, and they carry themselves smooth, so I definitely developed a lot of that from them, and yeah, I mean, growing up I loved Barbie dolls, but then I would also like give my brothers hand-me-down toys, so I would play with like Ninja Turtles, and I loved Power Rangers on my own because that was past my brothers. age range. They were in
Okay.
high school then. And but yeah, I mean I grew up just being like so eclectic. Like my parents always would give me books about art. They would give me books about poetry. They bought me tons of things about animals and about being black.
Okay.
So,
That's important.
my
That's
parents definitely, huh?
no, that's very important. Like you don't even know how underrated that is to like
Oh yeah,
provide materials to your children, to your black children to know about themselves and like understand where they come
to
from.
know about themselves.
Like it's
Exactly.
so underrated. Like if I could just interrupt for a second, like
Yes.
I'm born to Caribbean parents. They're both Jamaican. I was born here in the States, and
Nice.
you know, we I had to experience a lot of like colorism in my family. So that was a thing, and
Which is horrifying.
it's rough, especially from those Caribbean countries, like even with like the Dominican Republic and stuff like that, where you have people that are Afrocentric, but deny it because they see that having lighter skin is a better opportunity, right? Which is that
Oh wow.
inherent racism. So it's like I dealt with a lot of that growing up, and not enough understanding and accepting who I am, and knowing, and that stuff I had to
Right.
find on my own, and that's rough. Like I had to, I wouldn't wish that on any person of color. You should be able to
Yeah.
come into this world, and your parents are ready to like say, "Here, this is who you are. Take it in." That sort
Right.
of thing.
Or that person's better than you, or you're better than that person because of your skin. I mean, yeah, that's disappointing,
Yeah.
and it's really yeah, that's hard because I know a lot of Caribbean native people, like either they were born there and came here, or both of their parents are Caribbean, or they have island parents,
Right.
and they moved here, so they and I can't imagine that, especially like if the relatives are kind of still inherently thinking colorist.
Hmm.
It's sad. That's really sad.
Definitely.
And
But
no child, exactly what you said, no child should ever have to grow up like that.
right.
Because
So
yeah,
so I definitely admire your family for like providing you with those things to like kind of help you understand as you're growing up, because so underrated, so underrated. But we're gonna continue. You are like
yes.
you know into the action figures and stuff, and you're on your way to becoming a teen. How did were you always a gamer, or how did you start getting immersed into that?
Yes. Okay, so the first games that I ever played. Okay, so do you remember when Mac first came out and they had MS-DOS games, like on
Yes.
the MS-DOS drive? Yeah, so my first games ever were MS-DOS games, and I used
Okay.
to play Battle Chess, and which I freaking love. My dad taught. Okay, to this day, I do not know how to play checkers.
Okay.
I never learned how to play
Hold,
checkers, and I didn't.
hold on. You know how to play chess
Yeah,
and not
don't know how
checkers?
to play checkers. Nope. And I know it's an easier game. I just never cared to learn. But when I was little, my dad taught me how to play chess. I learned how to play chess when I was like 4 or 5 or something like that.
Mm.
And so I'm really good. I love chess.
Okay.
Chess is
Okay.
one of my favorite board games. But yeah, so I learned how to play. I would play Battle Chess on MS-DOS. I would play. There was this other game called Ski or Die. I know there was a Skate or Die version, but I used to play that. And there was this other game called Budokan, and I freaking loved them. And they were like my obsession. Then when we would get like systems and stuff for Christmas, meaning me and my brothers, we had original Nintendo. Then we would get Super Nintendo. We had Sega Genesis. And I never had a GameCube as a child. I never had Sega Saturn. I didn't have any of those. The next system that I had from like Sega Genesis and like Game Gear and stuff was a PS1. So then it went, a PlayStation. But yeah, I mean, I grew up playing I didn't play Atari or anything like that, but I definitely played some old games. And it was kind of like it was a really cool activity for me to do by myself. And then like games that were too difficult for me at my time, I would watch my brothers play them.
Right.
And it like literally used to be such a cool thing for me to sit and watch them like play through these super difficult games. And I would try my hand at it too, because that's why I love Tomb Raider so much. And I used to like almost look up to Laura Croft as like an inspiration, like I loved her. And
Okay.
I just loved like how her personality was. And I mean, obviously beyond like my female family members, but I definitely looked up to her a lot. I looked up to a lot of like characters that I would see in movies and stuff like that. And that was another pastime. I watched so many movies and still do, and love them and shows. And I used to sit with my dad and my brothers and watch horror movies. Like I would watch Hellraiser, I'd watch Halloween, all of this stuff as a child. And I was like, all right, because it's like horror, and that's why I love horror so much. So I grew up kind of in that eclectic environment, and my parents were both very eclectic, and they were eclectic like musically, the way they lived, the way they presented themselves, but also very stern, and still, putting their foot down when they needed to put their foot down about stuff like, maybe my grades or whatever. Okay, so I'll say maybe when I had gotten to like fourth grade, my life had changed. Because my mother had gotten injured. She had broken her wrist and the upper dominant hand, so of her right hand. And the first doctor she went to told her that it was nothing wrong with her and that it would heal fine. And the bones fused improperly. So she ended up having to get like a metal bar put in her hand with 9 screws. So she can't bend her wrist ever again.
That sucks.
And she had to relearn how to cook, how to drive, how to write, how to do everything. And because of that doctor's fault, she had to go to Mayo Clinic and it was a whole freaking thing. I remember taking that drive with my parents to Minnesota when I was little. And my dad had gotten, he was in a couple car accidents real bad when I was little. And, it was hard to see that, and just kind of like grow up and not really know what was going on. And, especially when my mom had broke her wrist, she couldn't do my hair anymore. So then, and growing up as like a little Black girl, your hair is obviously, it's like a big portion of you.
Right.
Because my mom was a mom where when she would do my hair, don't let those little kids play in your hair. Don't let them take it down and braid it. Leave it the way I do it.
Yeah.
So then I kind of had to figure out how to do my own hair and then, and kind of like get into that whole thing. Because that was kind of our bonding thing of her, doing my hair every morning when I was in elementary school. And it was a lot to kind of go through that little and just kind of, it was various other things that I don't care to mention on this podcast that were personal. But it's a lot kind of like trying to come out of that and like hoping that everything's gonna be okay, and then your grades suffer and all kind of stuff. Like I not until I was an adult didn't realize like how much anxiety I kind of developed from that time.
Right.
And how it affected me in school, because when I was in high school, the first 2 years of me being in high school, I had to go to summer school because I was like failing in a bunch of classes.
You had a lot going on. You had a lot going on. It's not easy. I work in a high school. I've been working in education. That's my real job. That's my real job.
Profession, yes.
Profession. And I've been doing it for 15 years. I work exclusively in high schools, so high school grades and some like middle school grades.
I love that.
Life, like real life, is real life, and it shows in the student. Like I'm so in tune to like my work and to these individual students that, depending on situation, I get to know for like 2, 3, 4 years, 5 or more, depending on the situation. And you almost like you become like empathetic. You feel the emotion. You can come in and tell right off the rip if a student's having a bad day, and depending on your status with that student, you know how to handle it or not, and you carry on your day to the best of your ability when it comes to that person. That being said, there's
Yep.
not enough credit given to a child's like just anxiety and trauma that they may have experienced up until that point. A
Exactly.
lot of us do not have perfect
Exactly.
lives. When I reflect on what I've been through in my life, I say, well, wow, that's trauma. And I didn't know how to process
Right.
that at the time,
At the
and
time. Yep.
you didn't know, and you think everything's okay or it's going to be okay. And sometimes it weighs on you for a very long time.
Yeah. And you
That
don't
being,
even realize it.
yes, of course. That being said, I know you and I haven't had much of a physical interaction over the years, but through like
Yeah.
the things that I've seen you talk about and go through, and just learning about your upbringing and some of your dynamic. Even if you may not feel this way about yourself sometimes, I see you as a very strong individual. And
Oh, thank you
and
so
like
much.
and I know that we're all gonna have those days and those moments and those times where it's like fuck everything, like shit, like
Yeah.
what the hell's going on.
Definitely have
but
those days.
but I see you as one of those people that can push through, and get to where you need to be at the end of the day. And plus, you're part of the FTC, so you have to have like a level of toughness in itself, to get
Yeah,
by. And
it's
so
true.
I just wanted to point that out about you, of course.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's, I didn't, until I had my therapist last year, because it was one session we had where she had asked me about my childhood, and I kind of like broke down, and I was
Mm,
like, damn, I didn't even think about so much of the stuff that like molded me, as an adult, and like seeing stuff that my brothers were going through, and like very real life shit that a lot of kids don't see, when they little. And then when they're going into high school, and because in Chicago we have this program called Gallery 37 that Maggie Daly started, for like inner city kids to be able to have a job in creative arts. So it was like a summer program. It's now called After School Matters, but when I was in it, it was Gallery 37. And I wanted to be in this program so bad, and I wanted to do it because they had like theater program, they had drawing, they had painting, they had photography, yada yada yada. And I would enter every year for drawing, for visual art, and I ended up doing graphic design one year, which was cool, but I could not intensely grasp it. Like even now, I'm very much like a hands-on paper artist, and I've drawn since I can remember. I still have sketchbooks from when I was little,
wow.
of like old little comic strips and stuff. So that was another huge part of my childhood, was just being an artist. Even like up with cosplay, I taught myself how to sew. I taught myself how to make and design wigs. I taught myself makeup for the most part. The only thing I went to school for formally, that I do professionally, is doing hair.
Right.
That's it. So I, I don't, everything else I taught myself. And it's,
That's amazing. That's I commend you
thank you.
for that.
I, and it's funny because even when I was in college, my first year, I was a fine arts major because I love classical art. Like anyone that knows me know I love classical art. Like I studied it for real.
Mhm.
And I think it's beautiful. And I it was like kind of a rude awakening when I went there, because I had this intro, or it was like this drawing one teacher, and she seemed just like so kind of like bitter, and like she would like I hated this class specifically because we
Mhm.
used to always only draw still lifes. We would draw landscapes, boring shit, stuff that I did not want to do at all. And I'm like, I already know how to draw. Why would I not just be able to like skip one or two of these classes and kind of go to like the advanced classes?
Right.
And they never wanted me to. And I'm kind of like, but I'm paying a lot of money for this, because Columbia College was not cheap.
Mhm.
And and it's just like whatever. So um I got a D in that class. Our final was to draw a self portrait with charcoal. And I drew it we had like 2 weeks to do it or some shit. I literally drew it the night before, I sketched something real loose and lazy, and then I turned it in. And my teacher was like so frustrated with me, and she's like, Melanie, like, you know how to draw. I know you know how to draw, but you're just not trying. And I was like, I'm not. I was like, you're absolutely right. And she was like, oh, I mean, I just don't get it. I was like, yeah, I just don't think this is right for me. And I changed my major from that point. And I had changed to like theater, and I learned about theater makeup in college, like kind of the intro. But other stuff that I've learned, I've kind of taught myself, or like learned from friends, or learned from like working on set, like seeing tricks of the trade, essentially, and stuff like that. And the same with hair, like, because stuff that they teach you in beauty school is kind of like the bare, by the book things that they teach you, and everything else that you learn in the field is just from experiencing it,
yes.
And yeah, I mean, and so, when I was in high school, I would draw in every class. Like, some of my teachers used to have to tell me to like put my sketchbook away, because I would be bored. I'm like, I don't care about a majority of this stuff. Like, it was very few classes that I like for real cared about, but I would pass. I mean, like, later in my high school years, I had gotten better. Like, maybe my senior year was probably my best year. Prom was the only high school dance I ever went to. I hung out with like the kids and like the like the weird kids.
It's an
unquote.
important dance though. Like, so not like you really missed out. It's the dance,
Exactly. And I would go to like metal concerts, but even like with that, and I still always loved hip hop. I mean, I grew up with it, but I loved kind of everything. I learned about anime on my own. I mean, all of that, side of me was from me, and I learned about anime when I was in grammar school, because the Sci-Fi Channel used to show anime on like Friday nights and Saturday mornings, and I would see it there, and I like fell in love with it.
And I think that was before Cartoon Network and Toonami. I think they were kind of one of the first to do it, and then like I guess Cartoon Network kind of just ran with the ball in that regard. So yeah,
exactly. I still have anime on VHS tapes.
So do I.
Yep. And I'll never get rid of them because it's nostalgic. Regardless of if I have them on Blu-ray or have them digitally, I'll never get rid of them, because I still have Disney VHS tapes actually, and they're just nostalgic. And I mean, they're kind of like collector's items.
Yeah, they're worth a lot of money.
So I keep them not to watch them, but really just because it's like it's cool to have them. But yeah, I mean, I've gone through, like even when I was in high school. Also being younger, I had dealt with like a lot of people dying, and up to this point, even still, like a lot of members of my family were older. I lost both of my grandmothers in the same month of each other when I was in high school. And that was probably the first time I ever saw my father cry, actually. So, and my father is like stoic, like super strong, my dad's been through a lot, and so has my mother. They both have, and they've kind of taught me that kind of resilience, and taught my brothers, and I've learned a lot from my brothers too, and it is just very much like, it's funny when people tend to judge you like based off of your appearance, because I used to befriend people when I was younger that I didn't know were like jealous of me in some kind of way, or would like just want to be friends with me to like get dirt on me, or like other weird shit. People do that, and it's strange as hell. So super strange. And people used to think that I like grew up in this fairy tale, and I like I grew up as this little princess, and all, because both my parents are still married. But it's like, you don't know, you wasn't living in my house. Like, you don't know anything that someone has been through. I don't know what they look like. What you don't know the half. Like, seriously, and I grew up in a way that has made me resilient, to a lot of people being pieces of shit on the outside. And it's, I don't get it, because it's really like, I always have felt like if people want to know about me, you can just ask me. Like, it doesn't have to be these weirdo rumors, or like, assuming thing. A lot of shit that I've heard that has come back to me that I've heard people say about me is rumors.
Right.
It's like, where are you getting this from?
Like
Like,
I'm
who
doing
the
this.
fuck is even saying this?
I'm asking you about you. It's that simple. Like
Yes.
don't go off the next person, you know. I hate third party anything. Only thing third
Same.
party I accept in life is games, and that's about it. Like
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
I hate like you
So
know like if someone goes, oh, you know, did you get the invite to something? I'm like, no, and I didn't get the invite, so I'm not going. I don't do the third party thing. Like it's like if you want
yeah,
me to be somewhere, like you contact me. Don't tell someone.
exactly.
I hate that. I do not third party invite me somewhere. I want you to reach out to
Right.
me and say, hey, I want you to be there. You know, not so hey, so and so said like no, I want to hear from them.
Yeah, no. What did you say?
Right. Right.
You know, it's so yeah, that's weird. And I feel like a lot of people, like a lot of these scene kids, in anime, the cons and stuff, the comic book kids, and in the FGC, you know, I feel like a lot of them have this dream of like the FGC like being a like real life and you know like being a job, and some of them have accomplished that, and you know some cosplayers have made it a job or whatever. But in the end, at the end of the day, all of these things are hobbies, you know,
Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
I love all of the nerd shit that I love, but I still put myself through beauty school. I've put myself in the union. I worked very, very, very hard to get where I've gotten at this point in my life, you know, and it's I've had some help along the way, but not really. You know, a lot of it
Right.
is me, and I'm not even saying that to be cocky. It's been a long road because some people get in my local union immediately,
Mm.
and then there are some people it takes them years. It took me 7 years to get in the union. And there were people that I started with that had gotten in the union the same year, and we both started at the same time.
All right.
So, you know, I mean, it's crazy, and it's a and there were plenty of times I wanted to give up. It was plenty of times I didn't think I wanted to do hair. I didn't want to do makeup. I'm like, fuck this. I'm gonna figure something else out. Maybe I'll go back to school. I had even gone to school for a period of time to be an addiction counselor.
Okay.
Because I didn't think that this was gonna go nowhere, you know. And then, you know, I had gotten that letter that was like, "You're inducted in. The ceremony is yada yada yada." But you know, and I was like, "Oh my fucking god!" Like I cried because I was like, I finally did it, you know, and it was just such a big deal.
And
So,
deservingly so. You definitely displayed
thank you.
the character needed to like and the perseverance needed to, you know, make whatever it is you want to make happen. So
Absolutely.
I definitely like hope you have continued success in that regard, in any regard for what you do.
Me too. Thank you as well, because
Yeah,
you are like
you know,
super pleasant, and I love it.
thank you. You know, I try to be pleasant. I don't think there's any other way to go about it, but that's my opinion.
I agree.
Now, of course, we've barely mentioned it, but it's kind of why we're all here, right? Like
Yes.
fighting games. When does that
Fighting
affect
games.
your life? When did you start saying, I love fighting games to where maybe in the future I might do something more than play?
So, okay, funny story. So when I was, and it's funny how this is kind of like a tie-in to James before I ever knew who the hell James was.
Oh, really? This is
But
interesting. Okay.
yeah, so when I was little, my brothers never bought Street Fighter, and I didn't go to like arcades really until I was kind of like older in high school, and
Mhm.
then like in college I would go to arcades. But that wasn't my, you know, kind of thing. I would play at home consoles, so that was how I would like learn
Right.
about fighting games. So my brothers loved Mortal Kombat,
Mhm.
so I would play with them and I would watch them play. And so I would play MK1, 2, 3. I mean, we had all of them. And they were just cool because we loved horror movies and they were gory, and it was just cool to see like the fatalities and stuff like that. And I just thought it was so awesome. And I always loved Kitana. She was like such a badass.
Yes.
And then when Baraka came, I thought Baraka was cool. My favorite characters to pick in fighting games, um, if it's not like a sassy girl, it is more than likely the fucking scariest character that's on the game. So I always love that. But yeah, so Mortal Kombat was my first fighting game experience on Sega Genesis.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean it was so cool. And I just remember loving it. And from that point forward, I played other fighting games. Like I still actually have my original Tekken from PlayStation 1. So, I had bought Tekken myself when I think I was like later in elementary school. And I played it, and it was so fucking difficult for me to understand combos because I would like look at the book and it would have the directions and I'm like, what does this mean? I'm supposed to press all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
And I would just kind of guess and like figure it out. And I would play against the computer and kind of like train against myself. Because I didn't really have like, I had my little cousins and stuff like that, but I didn't really have anyone in my age range immediately, in my family.
Mhm.
So it was just kind of like, I would just play by myself. And or if I would go to like sleepovers or something like that and they had games, and I would like play with them, but it usually wasn't fighting games. So when I really had gotten into fighting games by meeting new people that also played was when I was in college. So I went to college in 2004, excuse me, and I got told about this video game club, and I met a ton of people that I'm still friends with now. And yeah, I introduced a lot of people to that game club and just to that group, and it was just so fun, and it was like a bunch of like at that time a lot of them were seniors, and and they had established this game club, and it was every Friday, and we would go, and it was just kind of like our hangout, and we would kick it and play. And so probably the first game that I was good at that I actually competed in was GNT4, which is this Naruto game from GameCube. And
I remember those games.
you can like yes, exactly. And people that don't know, you can like Google them. Videos will come up on YouTube.
Mhm.
It was such a fucking fun game, and I was totally a Narutard at that time. I loved Naruto so much. I used to have a hidden leaf headband that I tied to my purse, and I would just let it like hang from my purse. I still love Naruto, but it's like I was like 18 then, so it was totally just like, oh, I love it. And it was just cool to meet people that love the same stuff that I love as much as I love it, and so yeah, I would play GNT4, and I would train with like some of the best GNT4 players. Like I believe they were some of the best like in the country, and they were from the Midwest. And one of them, Rob Nagaro, he moved to Japan. He moved to Japan years ago because he actually used to run a tournament here. It was a small tournament that was at Nickel City, not MWC. It was a separate tournament that he just ran by himself. And but yeah, and he would like bring like variety prizes from Japan, like stuff like that. It was cool. And so yeah, Rob would play. My friend Miguel, him and his little brother, they would play. And Miguel was he was like the best Kakashi because his name was Dark Kakashi. That was his gamer tag. He was the best Kakashi in the country. And his little brother, who at that time was like 8, he was called Dark Sasuke, and he used to beat everybody's ass. He would come in and pick Kyuubi Naruto, and he would be in grand finals with Rob Nagaro.
Okay.
Like it was like unbelievable. And I would train and train and train, and then I had picked up, because I would always pick Kyuubi Naruto and him or Kimimaru, and I picked up Kyuubi and was like whooping everybody ass.
Okay.
So I was like, I think I found my character. So I used to love it. Miguel used to have small tournaments in his family's backyard. And people would come from like other states to come and play with Miguel.
Wow.
I mean, it was like that. So then probably, okay, after Naruto, then TVC came out. So, okay, yeah, then TVC came out. So Tatsunoko versus Capcom. I have the game somewhere. I think it's over on my little shelf. But TVC came out, and I loved TVC. And I was dating a guy at the time. He had it. I never had a Wii, but he had it, or I think his roommate had it. It was something like that. And so we would play it, and I would play Morgan and Polymar. I would play June the Swan, Polymar. I fucking love that game. And we used to go, I don't know if you all have this in New York, but in Chicago, we have a place called GameWorks. It's in Schaumburg, which is far as hell.
It's like an arcade. Is it like the arcade kind of setup?
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost like Dave and Buster's, but much, much better.
Right. I've heard of them.
Have arcade cabs that people want to play.
Yeah, I've heard of them totally, but we've never had it in our region. So.
Oh, got it. Okay, yeah. GameWorks is a lot of fun, and so because they have like the UFO machines, like the Sega UFO machines. It's really cool, and so they were the only place that had a Street Fighter 4 cab. I think they had 2 Street Fighter 4 cabs, and they had a Tatsunoko versus Capcom cab.
Okay.
And I remember this one time I had gone out there because I never competed in tournament in TVC because by the time I wanted to, Marvel 3 came out and fucking destroyed it. That was a wrap for TVC. So anyway, when there was this one time I had gone out there. It was my ex's birthday, and so we went to GameWorks, and we were I was sitting at the TVC cab just by myself. I was playing by myself, and this random kid walks up, and he sits down. He doesn't speak to me. He doesn't say shit. He just sits down. I guess he thought he was gonna win. I whooped his ass with Polymar. I didn't even have to call my assist. I just kept making Polymar turn into a car and looped it over and over and over
my
again.
God.
And he got up and stormed off, and I was like, "Well, good games, bye." And so that was just super funny because people, and even like when you're a female gamer, people, especially strangers, will kind of be like real dismissive of you, even in tournament. You know, like when people don't know who you are because they'll like assume you're cocky, and it's like. No, you could just talk to me like a normal person. Like, what the, like that's you feeling that way, not me.
That's so crazy because I've had like definitely situations like that, where it was the opposite. Like I came in the situation quiet, against women, like in fighting. I'll never forget this. This is me, of course, telling my age. This is like 94. Like the summer 94. Okay. I have a whole story. Like I know you remember when Blockbuster had like those gaming tournaments back in the day. So that like they had it where like they were doing one for NBA Jam, and like I used to kill NBA Jam in the arcade, and then it came on the whole home console. So I'm like, I'm gonna win this, blah blah blah. I'm gonna go score. So I go to my local GameStop to sign up. I go to play my game. So you're supposed to get like the most points in 2 quarters or in a half, or whatever, and then like the top whatever go right. So. The first thing was I was playing on a Sega Genesis, so I was used to those controls, right? And then so that was the first issue. The second issue was we go there, Super Nintendo. I'm like, okay, fine. I own a Super Nintendo. I'll just adjust, right? So the person that's supposed to be watching me that worked at the store to put the score up, he wouldn't let me configure my buttons.
Wow.
And I'm like,
what an asshole.
Yeah, and I'm like, why? Why not? I can't play like this, And like I already ran this scenario through. Like, I'm going to score like 80 points in the half. The high score in that location was like 63. I ended up getting like 59. And I was so mad. Like, I wanted like everybody, I wanted the whole world to blow up that day. I was so mad. And like, I took a bus down like 20 minutes to get here, and I'm like, you know what? I'm walking back. Like, I don't even feel like getting on the bus.
You're like, fuck it.
Forget everything, right? And like, on my way back, I stumble onto this arcade that will end up changing my life. And like, it's a little tiny arcade in a little comic shop, and they had a Super Turbo in there. And like, this is not my hood. I'm in another hood, from me.
Gosh.
So I go in. I'm like, okay, it's cool. Like, there's a Super Turbo I'm gonna play. Right, I go in, I start playing, and this girl comes in. Like this girl, she's tall, thin. She comes in, she's on the game, and I hear her say, "Watch me beat this guy's ass." That's exactly what she said, and I'm like,
"Whoa! Oh my goodness!"
Okay, I'm like,
let me pull out my fan.
I didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing. I was like, I was playing Claw Vega, so I'm like, okay, she plays Ken. Ain't doing nothing I ain't never seen 1,000 times before. You are typical flow chart from the hood Ken. Like, ain't nothing like. So, long story short, I decimated her, right? And when she loses the first match, she stops and she looks at me for like a minute, and I'm like, I'm a deer in headlights. I'm like,
right.
That's how I've always been. Until you say something crazy to me, that's how I'm like, keep it on the game. I'm not trying to indulge you. And she looks around, she goes, "Who the fuck is this?" Right? And I'm like, damn, it's like that. I ended up being really good friends with her after that. Like, but she was not having it that day. She didn't know I was not from that hood. Like, the whole block came down to play me after that. And it was one of those moments. So,
that's awesome. Actually,
I definitely get where that's coming from. That initial, like, okay, GGs, maybe, don't be so hostile,
Exactly. The game. Okay, so the game after TBC, was Blaze Blue. So okay. Blaze Blue. Oh, I fucking love Blaze Blue. First Blaze Blue. The second one wasn't bad, and then like the other renditions, I played up until Platinum the Trinity was on the game, and then after that I was like, I'm good, because it's they keep making so fucking many of them, and it was exhausting. When I played Blaze Blue, I played Noelle Vermillion, who was my bitch, because she was the only character that I was willing to learn that could take down the tanks. So it, like in TBC, they have tank characters. So Go Lytan and fucking NX9000, whatever his fucking name was, they were both like literally giant characters. And if you played against them and you didn't know how to catch them up, they would crush you.
Right.
And so like in Blaze Blue, they had Tager, and Tager is a big body. He's like Potemkin.
Yeah, Potemkin, yeah, of course.
Like exact same, type of design.
Right.
And so one of my friends used to play Tager, and the only way I could get him was with Noelle Vermillion, and I love her. So I played her, and I played Arcune, because of course I got to play the creepy character. And I was really good at Arcune until they nerfed him. Actually, they nerfed him because in the original Blaze Blue, you used to be able to do the curse on a loop. Like you could curse your opposite character. You could curse your opponent. Your opponent. Excuse me. You could curse your opponent and then do a combo on them, and then you could loop it. You could curse them. I used to make people angry when I play Arcune, and they would get frustrated, and I would get frustrated too, because my ex at that time, he played Rachel, and Rachel used to piss me the fuck off. Rachel was the little girl with the parasol, the little vampire girl with the parasol. And if you knew how to play Rachel, you could destroy the entire character board.
Right.
Rachel was ridiculous. And I tried to play Rachel, but I got it a little bit, but she had too much stuff going on. She had like familiars, and it was a lot. I was like, okay, I don't even care about this. Care about learning this. And Platinum the Trinity was kind of like that too. And I got kind of good with Platinum, but the best character was Noelle for me. Noelle and Arcune until they nerfed him. Noelle remained the same, kind of like consistently in the games. Then after I didn't continue playing the other Blaze Blues, I played KOF 2012 for a while. I actually competed in EVO with that game, but I didn't do well because I didn't have enough time to train. and we had driven to Vegas that year. Excuse me. And
Wow. What's that
so
drive
yeah,
like?
it was 32
Oh
hours,
my
and
god.
we did it in like 2-ish days.
Okay.
We left on the 4th of July night and then drove, and it was one that was a SUV, and then the other one was like a 12 passenger van, I think. And yeah, I mean, we were troopers and we did that shit. And so yeah, it was a whole thing. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It was an interesting time, and that was actually my first Evo. I actually still have that KOF 2012 shirt because it was a lot of people that year. I had gotten buyed a few times because it was a lot of people that just came or just had applied for it to get the KOF shirt and
Right.
not play.
Right.
So
Oh yeah.
it was like, all
But
right.
that's such a
Um,
collector's edition. Me being like a super huge KOF fan, reason why I'm even here today.
yes.
I don't have
Oh
that
my
shirt, and
gosh,
I'm
I
like,
love KOF.
like, oh my god, I don't have that shirt. This is impossible. How's that work?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, the KOF I really liked, believe it or not, was KOF 2006, and a lot of people hated it,
Oh, the
but I
maximum
thought it was
impact.
cool
Yes.
because yeah,
Yeah.
Janae, I actually cosplayed as one of Janae's alternate costumes from that game.
Oh, nice.
She has a yes, she has an alternate costume where she's brown and she wears a blue version of her dress, and it's like kind of like covered in like stars and like glitter,
Mhm.
and she wears a blue cowboy or a blue pirate hat. And I cosplayed as that version of her at like an ASIN one year. ASIN is Anime Central. It is Chicago's biggest anime convention.
Okay.
ASIN, the only thing that's probably bigger than ASIN in the Midwest is Gen Con. YomaCon is equivalent to ASIN. So yeah, that's about it. But anyway, I loved KOF 2006. That was a really fun game too. I also love Soul Calibur because I love Baldo, of course, and Nightmare.
There's always the creepy characters to you, huh?
Yeah, I also love Tekken. Like a lot of people don't know, but when Tekken, I think it was 6 or 7, the one where Lily first came out.
Isn't that 5DR?
5. Okay.
Yeah.
Then so I played 6 a lot because 6 was her, Zafina, and Elisa.
Yes.
I used to make people so angry playing Elisa because I would take her head off and I would be like, here, I'm trying to give you some head, and then it would explode, obviously.
Yeah.
And people would get so mad. I would bring her chainsaws out at random times and juggle people. Like it was so much fucking fun. I used to make people angry playing Zafina because no one understood her.
No one understood
and
her.
You know how weird she is, and yeah, I mean, I just thought it was funny because I never took competing at games like intensely seriously as people that I knew. Like
Right.
I took it seriously to an extent, but I was putting myself through school and shit. Like it was kind of like, it was fun.
It's fun.
But I never expected to like win nothing for real. It it was just kind of like, it's cool. It's whatever. Yeah, I mean, oh my God, love those games. I have attempted Street Fighter because I remember my ex wanted me to enter that women's Street Fighter tournament, and he wanted me to train in Street Fighter just to play in that tournament. I never entered the tournament. And yeah, I mean, Street Fighter just was never my thing. Like I've actually cosplayed a ton of Street Fighter characters.
Right.
And I admire the game and I admire people that are good at it. It's just not my thing.
Right.
So yeah, I've never been good at it. I understand it, but it's just not my thing. What else? Okay, so after Blaze Blue, my next big game that I fell in love with, I think that was actually the last game I entered at Evo, was Persona 4 Arena.
Okay.
So yeah, I love Persona 4. It's, oh my God, it's just it's such a freaking good game. And I never played the Persona RPGs because I personally am not a fan of RPGs. Nothing against people that love them. I know a lot of people love them.
Right.
I've never liked RPGs.
That's fine.
Even from when I was little, I don't like them. I like open world games. I like fighting games. I like platformers. I like dungeon crawlers, stuff like that. RPGs are not my damn thing. Not because of the reading. I just kind of think a lot of them are boring. And
I hear you.
it's nothing. Again, everyone has a preference with games.
Mhm.
So yeah, they've just never been my thing. But and I have played some RPGs that I did really enjoy because I played a couple of the Mario RPGs that were cute that were on DS, and I played the Sailor Moon RPG, of course, because it's Sailor Moon. But I played that like on like some type of like burn program that's on my computer because it's a super old game. I think
Right.
that original
I
Sailor
think
Moon RPG.
I think
from, like,
those
the
had to
80s.
be translated, right? I think they were,
They had to be translated
yeah.
exactly.
'Cause
Exactly.
it definitely
And
didn't come
some of
out
them
here.
are still in Japanese.
Mhm. Yes.
Yep. So I played that. And yeah, I mean, I freaking love. Oh, and also during the time I played TVC. I used to play with Karasa, and Karasa is so fucking awesome. He's just really always just been such a positive person as long as I've known him. Because I had gone 1 year. I believe he ran it for like 2 or 3 years. Karasa had a tournament in St. Louis called Aerial Rave. And it was so much fun. I think that was actually the first regional tournament I ever went to that was outside of my state.
Okay.
So went to Aerial Rave, and it was a blast. I didn't compete then because that was before I was comfortable competing. I just kind of was there watching people, and yeah, I mean, it was really entertaining. And but yeah, Karasa, if anyone knows Karasa, they know that he is amazing at TVC.
Right.
And Karasa, he showed me a lot about that game because when Miguel would have his little mini tournaments in his family's backyard back then, he would definitely have he would give me I would play against him and I would get frustrated because I'm like, damn it, why is he so good? But then I would learn from him, and Karasa was one of the best TVC players, hands down. I don't care what nobody says. He was, most definitely, and will always be, regardless. So, okay, Persona. So then Persona 4 Arena comes out, and I forgot how I started playing it, but I fell in love with that game, and I became the fangirl because I obviously played the girl that had all the fucking fans, and I used to again piss people off because I would throw fans at them and to kind of like try and bait them and try and get them to come in, and then when they would try and come in, then I would send my persona out that would like, I think her persona used to like hold people in place, or she like could drain their life force. It was something. I think she could do both of those
Yeah,
things,
do both.
actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I would send my persona out and then combo them and then go to the other side of the stage and then throw fans at them until they were angry enough to jump at me. And I would do that until the time ran out because I just thought it was funny. And so yeah, I used to torture people with her. Oh my God, who else did I play in Persona? She was really kind of my main. Like even in the second, even when Persona 4 Ultimax came out, I tried to play Elizabeth a little bit because Elizabeth became better than her in that second version.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I kind of just stuck with her. Oh my God, I cannot even remember who, because I spent so much time like playing her. So I never really kind of took up a secondary character in Persona for real. It was like really her.
Okay.
And I felt like I had someone else that I chose for just some of the kind of like people that could break her, like New 13 and those fucking ridiculous characters. New
Mm-hmm.
13 is so damn overpowered, it made no sense. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my fighting game resume, and I haven't competed really since Persona, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, due to like either lack of interest of new games or really just like doing other shit. Like, cause
Yeah.
after I started working a lot more like in my industry, cause a lot of the time like before I was in the union, I would have two jobs. So I mean, at one point I worked at the news station and I worked at the opera at night. There was a period of time I worked at the opera the longest, and I always had a second job when I worked at the opera because I would have a day job and then would go to the opera at nighttime.
Right.
So yeah, it was a arduous ass journey, and kind of like up until I was inducted into the union, I've had multiple jobs. Like once I started getting entertainment jobs, that was really the only time that I can remember since I was maybe in college or high school that I've only had one job at a time. Like seriously,
Gotcha.
which is wild. But yeah, I'm always working hard and always working a lot, and I try to like reply to people like when I can, and so this is a rare off day for me, honestly. And yeah, it's just yeah, I mean, and I think that's kind of why I never like cared to just like know life the FGC and
Right.
kind of just train because I'm like I have dreams, like real life dreams
Mhm.
that are separate from this scene. Like I love cosplay, don't get me wrong, I love all of that stuff. But my real life always came first.
Of course.
And
Yes.
I put myself through beauty school, still going to FGC events, and I mean, yeah, like tournaments, all that. I've never had nobody pay for me to go to a tournament. I never had nobody pay for a plane ticket. None of that. I've maybe gotten like comp badges. I've maybe gotten like stuff like that, but no one has ever comped my room. Ain't nobody ever paid for my room for me.
Right.
None of that. Yeah, I've done all of that shit on my own. And I mean, if I've roomed with other people, then obviously the other people would put in. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of it. Like I definitely every convention, yeah, unless I was working the convention, yeah, I definitely pay for everything myself.
Miss Independent, in effect. I appreciate that.
I'll be trying. I'll be trying.
It's dope. I want your opinion on something.
Yes.
With a few of the guests that I've talked to, and then just in regular conversation, we talk a lot about the different communities in the United States FGC, and
Yes.
what usually comes up in conversation is the strength of the different regions, right? And
Yeah.
and I'm guilty of this too because I'm from New York in that region.
Yes.
And the general consensus is usually that more or less is West Coast, East Coast, arguably, and then everyone else, right?
Right.
So how do you feel as a Midwestern about like the strength of players in that region and then compared to the rest of the country or even the world? And like how do you feel about that? Is that sentiment far off? Is it something that people are just talking out their ass and that you have some real talent out in the Midwest? Or what is that?
Well, being biased, of course, we are the Midwest.
Okay.
But I think that the Midwest, like very seriously, does have some very, very good competition.
Right.
And we have some of the best players. It might not be like the best players in like all the super mainstream games, but
Right.
I mean, Detroit, oh my God, Detroit has so many good Street Fighter players.
Yes.
So many good Street Fighter players. They had a lot of good more MK players, a lot of good Tekken players.
Tekken.
The same here.
What was the name of the player that was really good in Street Fighter Cross Tekken that came out from that region?
Oh my gosh. Cool Kid.
Yeah.
He
was it Cool Kid? Yeah.
He's from Chicago.
Right.
Yeah. And they're cool. I get along with him and his wife Joy.
Yeah.
They've always been cool in my book, regardless of like controversy and whatever.
Right.
They don't have nothing to do with me. But Chicago Chicago had some of the best Skullgirls players.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some of the best Guilty Gear players. We've had some of the best Mortal Kombat players.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some of the best really just kind of anime game players, just in
Right.
general, like obscure games, or whatever that people think of. I actually remember my friend Jeff. This is a funny story. So Frosty Faustings has a tournament that is very special to their tournament called the Mystery Game Tournament.
Yes.
If you've never heard of the Mystery Game Tournament, it is literally a tournament where you enter and then you go and compete against whoever is in your pool. They literally put a blind game in. You find out what you're playing when the game is turned on, just like everyone else. If you've never heard of it, it's more than likely that you've never heard of it. So you just fucking wing it.
I've definitely heard of it, but is it because I know UFGT, which is now Combo Breaker, the spiritual successor.
Combo Breaker, yeah.
They did something like that. Is it the same game the whole tournament, or each round is a different game?
Oh no. Every time you sit down, it's a different game.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so it's like a box of tricks.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's hilarious because it's like these super obscure games and you're like, what the hell is happening? So, okay, Frosty Faustings, not the last one that happened, but the one before that, my friend Jeff, who's local, he went up against Jabali. And Jabali was like so cocky, and Jabali thought he was going to beat him, and Jeff whooped his ass and knocked him out the tournament. And I guess Jabali was super upset about it, and I thought it was hysterical. And I gave Jeff a high five, and I was like, thank you, Jeff. Get him out of the tournament. So that was just funny. My friend Brad has won Mystery Game a couple times. Yeah, I mean, Mystery Game Tournament is just a lot of fun. So that's something that's fun, and like special for the Midwest. Yeah, I mean, St. Louis, they, like I was talking about with Carasa, I mean, they have quite a few hitters. Midwest gets slept on a lot, and I think it's because people think, it's farmland and all, whatever. Like, Midwest got some real competitors,
right.
And a lot of members of Korn are extremely good at games.
Yes.
And I feel like they haven't gotten a lot of credit, for a lot of stuff. I mean, Sleep was the KI world champion 3 times.
Yep.
So, Twan has traveled all over the world playing Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Adonis, an OG, Footwork, a lot of them, Gerald or GP Money is his gamer tag.
Yeah.
A lot of them. And
L Train, Caps,
here,
all those guys.
L Train, oh my God, yeah. I actually just saw L Train. He had came to Chicago for a little bit for his girlfriend's birthday. And yeah, we kicked it, took them to the casino. We had a good time. And but yeah, it like they have so many people that are slept on. And I feel like the Midwest tends to get respect in silence until we get rowdy about shit.
Right.
And then
okay, whoa, okay, you got it, you got it. I don't
right, exactly. We definitely will get loud. So
that's what's up. I appreciate that. But you got to represent. Don't let us coast people tell you how to feel about your about your community. And I honestly, now that I really think about it, having you on the show, yes, you guys have a lot of talent coming from there. I remember Alucard bodying Daigo in pools one year and how hyped that was.
Oh my God.
And you can't. When you see someone like a Daigo or Just Wong in any game, like it could be like a new game that debuted at an event and no one had experience. Like you don't count those guys out ever because of just their fundamentals and their skill level. And so
absolutely,
it's huge. It's huge, and some fans and apologize to make up excuses and like the sun was black that day or some shit and like
right,
but
exactly.
It's like it's just who was the best player at that day at that moment. That's what it
that day at that moment exactly. And people will, and I feel like people do try to discredit a lot of Midwest players. And it's unfair. And and honestly, I mean, even to take it here, I think it's a racial thing too, because I don't feel that as many Black or Hispanic players get as much credit as white or Asian players.
Miss Moxxie, let me
I
tell you
don't.
right now. You and I
Yeah.
are going to touch on that in another episode because we need to have a whole
Oh,
episode
no, absolutely. Because
dedicated
it's
to
a
that.
whole subject.
Yes, definitely. But go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I love the Midwest. Even if I don't live here my entire life, I will always be from here, and I will always represent regardless. I love Chicago, and I love my Midwest surrounding cities. You know, and I mean, Ohio got some players too. They obviously have Perfect Legend, you know, and they got Jacko, they got a couple hitters, and it's interesting because I feel like when people, expect the Midwest, like I was saying, they think like the cornfield and cows and shit. And it's like, we got that, but we also we can be loud. We can have our own personalities specific to us. One person doesn't represent an entire community.
Right.
And, we'll have people that'll come out of states of, oh, I'm the king of so-and-so. Fuck that. We all on the same plane.
Right.
Because really the people that's winning don't need to do all of that.
Right. Exactly.
They can let their winning speak for them.
Exactly.
So, it's really a thing that I think that people, what I've noticed with FGC people that I think is super interesting, when certain ones, when they start to become top players or they start to get recognition for certain shit, and then they get cocky and forget where they came from. And I really think that's some young people shit. Yeah. Like, not to be an asshole, whatever. I've had people call me old on some side, some snarky boy. And I was like, okay, you got one more time.
You're FTC boomer. They're calling you FTC boomer.
Oh, yeah. It's like, don't play with me because I'm not your mama.
Right.
Like, So anyway, yeah, I mean, and it really just kind of is some like young people, like, I know everything shit. And it's like, but you don't know everything. You ain't like, stop. And if somebody is trying to tell you some shit, sometimes you need to just listen. And a lot of them, when they get cocky and they kind of like think that they know everything, oh, they got it because they FGC famous. And but okay, so then say the FGC shuts down completely. Right. Just hypothetically.
Right.
Say it shuts down and there ain't shit else, no tournaments, no whatever.
Right.
And like during the pandemic, for example. And, people are kind of like shut in, and then your FGC fame is doing what for you?
Right.
Because you need to have a backup plan.
Right.
I'm not saying to not be happy about being in the FGC, but get a skill that is not video games. Because the real reason that I had stopped competing is because I developed a nerve disorder. So it goes from like the middle of my back in my spine and goes down my shoulder, down my left hand is my dominant hand.
Yeah.
And it affects everything. I have good days, I have bad days. And I have some days where my hand will literally shake because of my nerves being fucked up. And so obviously my real life job is very dependent on the strength of that, and of me being able to hold things. And I mean, the worst that it's been, I wasn't even able to grip a pencil.
Right. Okay.
So it was bad.
It was real.
And so, I've worked on getting it better and, trying to like change things. And, but yeah, I mean, that was why I stopped competing, because I was like, I couldn't even, here's my hand doing it right now. I couldn't even freaking like hold a stick or a controller without twitching. So I would press buttons I wasn't trying to press or do a jerk motion that I wasn't trying to do. And yeah, I mean, I play for fun, but I'll never compete again.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I had the same issue with I get like carpal tunnel, and I've actually lost tournament matches because my hand decided to go
the pain.
Fuck you, I'm literally like my hand kind of does like, it doesn't do it as much because I've I fell back from competitive gaming a lot. I do it once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
I still play, but can't invest the hours like I used to. And I was in a tournament match and I was playing KOF, and I dropped basically the match because right at the end of the match, my fingers used to do this thing where it would do like Spider-Man lock.
The switch and yep.
Yeah, and then
exactly.
my fingers would just lock.
Yeah, mine kind of does that.
And like I need my hands to press these buttons, to play. And it's like I'm sitting there kind of trying to use my knuckle to get like a button that I wanted to come in.
Exactly.
And this is happening mid match. I'm like, fuck, So I totally understand. Like, and people don't know that's an issue, and I'm sure it affects a lot of players, especially players that have longevity in the community, have been around a while. Because that's definitely, unless you had some sort of injury, it's not like a young person's ailment, right? It's like usually people that have been around,
right.
Doing this for a while.
And carpal tunnel can develop even being an artist. Because,
right.
like I said, I draw, all of the things that I do are with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
My job, my hobbies, crafting, making props, all of that shit is dependent on me having my hands. I would rather do that stuff than be good at video games any day. So I can watch people be good at video games. That doesn't, that's whatever. But, because I've had people say, oh, she don't even play no games. No, I don't. Not no more. Not competitively.
That doesn't mean you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
And people that don't deal with it don't know, because it's painful as hell too.
Right.
So it's not even just like it's a twitch. It is some of the worst pain I've ever been in my life.
Right.
So, and it's a consistent thing. It's not like it's on and off. It don't go away.
Right.
And I've heard of players develop carpal tunnel, develop arthritis in certain, instances. And really it's kind of like, have a plan for after this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
No one is going to compete in video games forever.
Nope.
No one.
No.
So no one's going, well, maybe cosplay could be different. Maybe some people could cosplay forever. I don't know.
Right.
But like with video games, since it is such a physical thing, because since they like to call it esports or whatever, the same with athletes. Athletes are not athletes forever.
Right.
Ballerinas until they're maybe 25. That's the end of their career. So, and because it's so physically demanding, and pressing buttons is physically demanding, you're doing a repetitious act. And it's just something that people need to take into account. Think about something else that you would enjoy doing, even if it is video games.
Right.
Go to school for that. Educate yourself.
Exactly. Make yourself
better. Get a trade.
Part of this industry.
Something else.
Yeah.
Do something else. With your tournament winnings, stop spending your tournament winnings to stunt. Take your tournament winnings and put yourself in fucking school.
That's
seriously,
man.
It's ridiculous.
You hitting the hammer on the head in that one. It's funny because like I equate kind of like an FGC competitor or any competitor to like the people that run the tournaments and own the organizations and run the teams, right? Because I'm like, I think I forget which one it was, but Chris Rock said it best. He was like, Shaq is rich, right? He gets a contract when he played.
Yep.
He got money, whatever. The guy that owns his team is wealthy. He's the one that's like giving Shaq the money. That's nothing, because like he could have that. You buy yourself nice little rims, as he said. Whatever. You kind of want to be that person at the end of the day, right? Or like kind of just like make your own fortune, because being an FGC competitor isn't guaranteed a paycheck, no matter how good you are.
It sure ain't.
It's not. And I think some people don't grab that concept, very well, Because
can I say this real quick
Sure.
before you finish your statement? When tournaments come back, if I see one FGC GoFundMe for a tournament, I am clowning the fuck out of you. Like, period. And I don't want to see it no more. Get a job.
No more.
Get a job. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
And even if you have to do that, don't do that shit 2 days before the fucking event, when shit is at its most expensive, an utmost situation, like if you knew you were going to this event 6, 8, 12 months in advance, start it back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And start stuff for yourself. But again, it's another show. It's another topic.
I know.
Um,
I know.
that all being said, I personally need to know how did you ever get mixed up with such a crazy guy like James MK?
Like James. Oh God.
And James,
Okay,
you know,
so-
if James hears this, he knows I'm playing because I love him to death. And like
yes. Oh man. James
he's
has
been
actually become like huh.
no, I'm sorry. I was going to say that he's been like when we first started KPB and stuff like that. Like there was just a handful of people that were like so welcoming into the community, and he was one of those people for sure. Like he you know, forget about who he is or what he believes in, political affiliation.
Yeah.
None of that. None of that's important. He will literally walk up to you and say, "What's up?" You know, and say, you know, how shake your hand, you know,
How
tell
you
you
doing?
tell you his opinion of the current status of the community, and then that's it. And keep it moving. Like you know, that's a down to earth, like, you know, I think personality that people lack. So how did you get to
Yes.
meet this guy and his craziness?
Okay, so oh man, James. James is such an entertaining person, and he's such a fascinating person. Like I've gotten to know James very well over the years of like doing the show, before the show,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, James has become like one of my closest friends that I've met from the FGC. I don't consider him an FGC person anymore at this point.
Right.
Like James is my friend, so like my real life friend. James will call on me and check on me. I mean, he does it with a few people, you know, but okay, the way I met James, oh my goodness. So, one of the other things I did, kind of like, not in the beginning of me being in the FGC, because I first joined the FGC technically in 2004, because that was when I, you know, found that game club and, you know, started playing GNT4, all of that. So, oh man, when did this group happen? So this girl I knew had suggested, I had a video blog that I did on my own, and it was pretty FGC centric because I would have like special guests on there. It wasn't always about the FGC, but it would be like about hot button topics. Some of the episodes are still on YouTube. And you know, like I did it by myself, in terms of like creating the ideas, being in front of the camera, yada yada yada, my makeup, hair, blah blah blah. At one point I had a friend that helped me, and then that went south, because he would like record it for me, like put up the whole thing, he would upload it to his YouTube, and then it went south, and I didn't do it for a long time, and people were like, oh man, bring your show back, yada yada yada. And another friend of mine, my friend Jeff that I mentioned earlier, he helped me bring it back again. And I had Adonis on the episode, and I did another episode. I think it was about I think it was about like polyamory and you or so. So I would just talk about just kind of like general stuff. It wasn't always about the FGC. But I had done this infamous 2-part episode that was called "The Women of the FGC versus Pro Hoes," that had members of Korn on it. Adonis, Caps, and Bucci was on there. Bucci Main Black. And so during that time, I also ran a Women of the FGC group. That was what it was called.
Yeah.
I was the first to do that. And someone had during when I was filming my video blog, someone had given me that idea. I was like, oh, we should do this and this and that. And I was like, oh, I don't know. You know, because I had been affiliated with a previous girl gamer group that was bullshit, and that I will remain unnamed, because this isn't the OPS show. But so I started the group, you know, and these girls would tell me all their problems. They would fight with each other. It was all these issues. Then they would be mad at the boys because the boys would, talk shit about their group and this and that. And so I'm here trying to mediate all sides because that was actually how I met Adonis.
Right.
Was because he was trying to like bully my group and talk shit. And I was like, first of all, don't talk to all of them. You can talk to me.
Right.
And so we became cool from that because he saw that I wasn't fake,
right.
And so, our friendship spawned from that. And then James, found out about my group. So he had me do the OBS show. So many people from my local scene were like, please don't do this. That, like, they were so scared. They didn't want any parts of it. I'm sure they had talked behind my back. I heard somebody had called me an idiot for affiliating with. I like all kind of stuff. And I was like, all right. Because people had feelings towards him because of whatever their affiliation was with some other TOs. That don't have shit to do with me.
Right.
So the people that have shown loyalty to me are the people that I still talk to today.
Right.
Everybody else can kiss my ass.
Exactly.
And I'm saying that very seriously. So from that, James had me be on the OBX show. So I did it at home. I had my laptop at that time and I did the interview. James was so nice to me. I talked to him beforehand because we spoke on the phone. He told me, what it was going to be about. He didn't throw any weird, like, curveball questions at me. Like, he wasn't disrespectful.
Right.
He was super nice, and so, so then, after I had done, in my video blog, I had done an episode, like I said before, the women of the FGC versus pro hoes. And when I was saying the women of the FGC, I didn't necessarily mean my group. It just meant the women at large in the scene. Because there were plenty of women that weren't in my group. And so, so then, from that point, I shared it with my group because I didn't want them to think I was hiding something from them. Because I'm like, I'm supposed to represent y'all, and do this, so I'm going to be honest with you. And I did my show before I ever started this group.
Right.
When I started that group, it was just, whatever. And the thing that's funny is that I still have access to both of those groups. I'm the only one that still has access to them. And they basically kind of like witch hunted me. None of them watched the video. They actually just saw the title and got mad. And then, systematically slammed me to everyone. It was this whole thing. I was like in shock, kind of. Because I was like, wait, I started this group for y'all. But then if one of you found the video blog, then you would think that I was lying to you. So I'm doing what's honest and showing you what I'm doing, and you're mad. Right. So I fucking washed my hands of it. I was like, group is over. Bye. Y'all can, do whatever. And then another popular girl group in the FGC was born, which that's a story for the LBS show.
Right.
But from that, I just felt really like, I felt disheartened, because I felt like a lot of people turned their backs on me, which they did, totally did. And so then I would continue talking to James. Me and James would talk on the phone, all kind of stuff. And I really got to know James. And so one day he had pitched me an idea, and he was like, so I'm thinking about reforming an OBS show. And he was like, I know you've seen the old episodes where it'd be tons of people and yada, yada, yada. And he was like, we'd be filming for hours and all, he was like, I don't want to do any of that shit no more, in James' voice, and so he was like, I was thinking about reformulating the show and making it almost like a Howard Stern thing. And I don't know Howard Stern's co-host. Is her name Nicole?
Robin?
I can't remember.
Robin.
Huh?
Robin,
yes, my bad. And he was like, and then I want you to be like Robin. And I was like, I'm down for that. So I thought it was hysterical. And I was like, I'll do it. So then, fast forward, then, I was promoting the show, and, and people were hyped. And then again, my local people, not all of them, it was some of them, because they felt whatever they felt about James, which again, don't got shit to do with me.
Right.
So, they got mad and felt whatever kind of way, and people turn their backs on me again or probably talk shit. I don't care. I grew up, first of all, in one of the hardest ghettos in this country.
Yes.
I don't need to explain shit to people that ain't from Chicago,
Right.
claiming the Chicago FGC. I don't want to hear nothing about it, and I will say it to their face. Period. So I don't have to explain what I do as an adult because y'all think somehow I represent you when none of them have ever supported me.
Right.
Ain't none of them put, please. It's laughable, actually. So James gave me that opportunity. James didn't even offer to pay me, and I told him no. James offered to pay me a couple of times, and I said no. It's not for that. I have a job, I'm not doing this for that. So we, did the show together, and it was a hit, and people loved me being on the show, and we did more episodes, and I don't regret it at all. It's been such a eye-opening experience, being on that show and getting to know James and the people that I've met from the East Coast through James, and it's, it is interesting because people do treat you different because he had told me, he was like, people are going to act differently towards you now that you're affiliated with me.
Right.
And I didn't think it was real at first because it wasn't initially. And then the more episodes we did, the more I started seeing people act funny. And I was like, oh, okay, this is totally real.
Yeah.
So, people get weird. They act scared or they act like you're going to gossip about everything you tell. And it's like, what? First of all, I don't care enough about other people's business. I got enough of my own personal shit going on.
Right.
I don't care enough about other people's business for me to make an OBS episode about someone's relationship in the FGC. Knowing people have hit us up about that kind of stuff. And it's like, that don't got nothing to do with video games. And that don't have nothing to do with somebody's beef in the community.
Right.
Or beef over games or whatever. We try to keep it to that unless it's something that's serious. Yeah. As you know, we obviously talk about serious subjects on the show. Mm-hmm. And all of that is very real. And it's real emotions. It's real, all of that. We've done episodes before where I would leave from in front of my computer and just start crying. Because it would be so much that would just come from those serious episodes, and it's a lot. It's been a wild ride, and I love the show, and I love working with James. He's so much fun, and and we also kind of do the show when we want to, because it's sometimes people will hit it. Oh, do a show. Why don't you guys do a show? First of all, we're gonna do the show when we want to do the show.
Right.
It's not, you're not running anything. So you're not about to demand us when we gonna do something. So, it's because we both got real lives and real jobs and real everything. So it's, it's sometimes it's hard to balance. And, it's one of those things. But that was how I first met James. And we had first met in person at the first NEC I went to. And he was so funny. We drank at the bar, we kicked it, we've been to Summer Jam together, and I think one other NEC that I went to. But yeah, James is a super cool person. And people think that me and James sit around and sit on Twitter all day and seek drama. First of all, I don't even follow FGC people for real on social media. I deleted almost every FGC anime person off my Facebook, off my Instagram, off my Twitter. If they still follow me, that's cool. But I had to expel a lot of that shit from my life for personal reasons.
Right.
And, some people know what it is, some people don't. I'm not going to talk about it today. But it is on Twitter, people think that we'll just sit and try and look up a lot of the time people just send us that stuff. We're not just sitting and we got You know, like
there's
I
no
work
ham
12 to
radio.
14-hour days.
You know, there's no ham radio, and you're scanning. You know, the
Scanning, right?
police scanning. Like
Drop.
there's drama here. Let's go avenge it. You know, like
Yeah, and like we grown. And additionally, first of all, no one in the FGC, to be totally frank, is that interesting for me to stalk their social media.
Thank you.
They're just not. Period. Y'all ain't that exciting. So sorry to put that out there. It's just not interesting. So because after a while, I get sick of seeing my entire news feed flooded with game shit. Like y'all don't talk about anything else. Y'all only talk about video games and anime. I mean, and if you do, that's fine. But I don't want my entire feed to only be that. It's a little annoying. You know, especially in current times when it is such real life shit going on and y'all still talking about video games this heavily.
Right. Like,
I understand that it's escapism, but you can't run from your problems forever.
Of course.
No one can run from problems. You know, and I've had friends that have lost parents to this virus. I've had friends that have lost relatives. I mean, grandparents, all kind of stuff. And, you know, people who have, there have been like deaths in the FGC, a lot of deaths in the FGC that I've barely heard anyone talk about.
Right.
And I don't know what the causes were. One of the players was even murdered. And I ain't heard no one talk about that but Corn.
Right.
Everyone else has been silent. So it's like, y'all just don't care about that or what? Or it don't have nothing to do with you, or it don't have nothing to do with clout.
Or gaming.
So you can't say nothing about it. You know, and people that have never dealt with grief also tend to be, I think, like socially awkward in situations where like life gets real and they just kind of don't know how to compute it, I guess. I don't know. But it's weird to me how a lot of people in this scene will like strangely avoid their real life problems with games.
Oh yeah.
And that's a bad choice because you're gonna end up in a bad place.
For real.
You just are.
Oh man, it's a great having that sort of insight. I don't think people really understand that. I think people really understand that.
Yeah.
And for me, the FGC is escapism. Like I escape, you know, my regular life for a little bit. You know, I go away,
exactly,
shack up in a hotel, you know, room, and come down and, you know, do stuff involving gaming. So that's my little escape. But when Sunday's over or Monday morning comes, depending on what event I'm in, I'm back full time into my real life, and then whatever comes my way, I got to deal with. You know, I can't
100%.
I can't put that to the side forever. You know,
no,
not even for
none
like
of us can.
too many days. Like things happen all the time in your life, like on a daily basis. So, you know, I mean,
yes,
kudos to you if you think that it's the way to go, but it eventually catches up to you for sure.
It catches up to you because you're gonna turn around and be my age. Or your age, or James' age, or I mean, whoever OGs in the community.
Right.
You're gonna turn around and be that, and then turn back and be like, "Damn, what do I have to show for this?" Winning video games, which is cool. That is a cool accomplishment.
Right.
But what did you do for your real life in that meantime?
Right.
Probably nothing.
Right.
What did you do with your tournament winnings?
Wow.
You know, and is it people be really you know, putting that stuff out of their minds, which is confusing. Because again, no one can do this forever. Like I'll say compete. You know, everybody can't compete forever. And we gonna say this too. Everyone does not have the bravado to be a commentator either. So don't just think that because you know a game that you're interested enough to watch for a couple hours. Everyone ain't. So, you know, yeah, it's just it's interesting, and it's really
you have been
really
like
really,
you have been really good at creating future subjects.
Oh yay! Oh my god!
Like, because again,
I
like
will come back on anytime.
You know, because it's people can't handle the truth, man, in this community for sure, and like
nope.
You know, even if you have talent, there's only space but for so much talent, right?
Yep.
And
100%.
you know, life has its way of like showing you that like, hey, this is or isn't for you. You know, and whether you choose
Yep. Exactly.
to understand or ignore it, it's up to you. You know, but
Yep.
if it's not the pop monsters in the Twitch chat, you know, it's not getting an opportunity, and not because of favoritism. Not to say that they don't exist in the community, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, it,
Oh, I totally know what you're saying.
just do better. How about that? Let's start there. You know?
Yes, just do better. That's that just as a whole.
You know,
Do better socially, do better economically in some cases if you have the opportunities to, do better educational wise.
mm,
Like actually I do want to say this one other thing. That's something else that's been interesting about being a woman in the gaming community, and specifically a Black woman in the gaming
yes,
community, because I'll say that for myself, is when people try to talk to you like you're stupid. And that is probably one of the biggest pet peeves of mine, because I'm extremely intelligent and I'm a lot smarter than people think or give me credit for in a lot of cases. And that's why I think it's funny when people think that they be smarter than me in certain shit. And it's like, all right, you go ahead. But
yeah,
anyway, I came from a very educated family, and I hate being talked down to, for one. And it is interesting when people will get passive aggressive with you, or like, like it was this one guy who was like trying to explain frame data to me, and I looked at him like this, and I was like, I know what frame data is. And then he completely shut up, because I guess he caught himself trying to hit on me, and I was like, yeah, I know what it is.
you know what it is?
You don't have to explain that to me.
It's a bit of gatekeeping and misogyny because
Yeah.
because you're a female, you know, because you're a Black female, you know, it's
And I'm tall.
and you're
I'm taller than a
tall, you
lot
know,
of guys.
you don't necessarily fit the waifu model perhaps for some people, you know,
Yep.
that kind of thing. It's interesting because like we definitely had women on the show. We've had Aziza in the beginning.
Yes, nice.
I just did one with oh my God, with Tiffany Nazari, and
Yes.
we spoke about that. So like we spoke about these spaces in the community, right? And
Mhm.
how hard it is for one being a woman, let alone two being a Black woman, you know,
Yep.
to navigate, right? And it's like, what does that look like? What do you say to like women of color, particularly Black women who are also going through this right now in the community, or will be once we get back into that, you know,
Yeah.
full powered, you know, physical capacity. What in your experiences, what do you say to these women, or any women really, when it comes to this like misogynist governed like community, and how to navigate it properly while maintaining
Oh man.
your integrity and respect?
Yes. Well, number one to me is always keep your integrity intact.
Right.
No one can tell you who you are but you. So I don't care if somebody's saying that they know you from so and so, or they heard something. Fuck them.
Mm.
You know who you are. Be who you are. Don't let anybody tell you differently than that. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, I would say learn who your friends are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about just Timothy that you didn't play it online with, or what, you know, you ain't never met in person. Know who your friends are for real, because sometimes even maybe bring friends that don't know nothing about the FGC to events with you, just so you can know you have your unbiased, real people there with you.
Right.
Have a real core friendship group, and don't only have friends from the FGC.
Right.
That's another thing. Like, it's cute that people got, you know, these friend circles and stuff like that, you know, because y'all have common interests and all of that stuff. I've lived the outcast childhood. I've lived the outcast high school life, adult life even. But it looks cute on paper, this isn't 1995. You know, like it, like
This is not
you
high
are
school for
not
sure.
being ousted. Yeah, you know, you're not ousted for being weird no more.
Right.
People be weird as hell and are accepted openly in society. So I don't want to hear those excuses no more either.
Right.
You know, it definitely know your friends and trust who you keep around you and who you tell your information to. Don't tell everything to everybody. Because everything about you ain't for everybody's ears.
Mm.
So what else? I would say in terms of competition, if people want to belittle you and, you know, talk down or be weird or whatever, let them look like a buffoon. But if you're a shit talker, because I'll be a shit talker, then talk your shit. Talk your shit right back with them.
Yep.
But if you want to be silent and demure, do that too. Because sometimes that makes people even more scared. Because then they'll try to overcompensate by talking more shit. And then when they see it's not affecting you, you're not nervous, they be like, what the hell is wrong with this girl? So, you know, have as much confidence in yourself as you can. Know that you're you, know you're a badass, and know that you're owning it, regardless of whatever it is. A game, your looks, your costume, your whatever. Know you the baddest MFer going, you know, and so just keep, you know, and that's really kind of the best advice, I think. And because I think that can translate to games, that can translate to real life, that can translate to a lot of things.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, excuse me, not at the end of the day, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, it's video games. I know it might be frustrating to lose. I've been mad about losing. I mean, I've been there.
Right.
I get it. But it's video games. Train and get better the next time. Get good, like people say.
Get good.
Get good.
Pick a top 10.
You ain't no different from anybody else just because you're a girl. Get good.
Hell yeah.
That's it.
That's what's
you
up.
know, and yeah, I think that would be it.
Awesome. My one concern about having you on the show is that you would have so much to say that like one show is not built around you enough. So I would definitely like to have you. I would definitely like to have you back at some point. You know,
absolutely.
About different
let
things.
me know. The season gonna be over soon, so I have plenty of free time.
Yes. Before you go, I just wanted to like, just had any like last second thoughts? There's anything you want to impart the viewers and the listeners with about the community, you know, and just in general?
You know, I think the community has a really interesting thing on the horizon, especially with PlayStation now owning Evo.
Another show.
So another show. But that, you know, I think it's a real interesting horizon. And I also think it'll be very interesting to see the first event to take on the responsibility of being the first event to come back from the pandemic.
Right.
Hopefully not this year, because people still need to sit their ass in the house. Because I don't know what people are doing in Florida with going to spring break, Atlanta having All-Star weekend. I was like, what is happening?
Miami, like, off the chain
Miami,
right now.
Texas. Like, I mean, it's crazy. Like, Texas has canceled their mask mandate, and Indiana is about to do it.
Wow.
It's confusing because people are still currently dying from COVID.
Right.
So I don't understand. But anyway, so, you know, I think that will be really interesting. And I really want the community at large to treat these events with care, because PlayStation bought Evo, and other people could down the road be like, I'm sick of dealing with these ungrateful players and patrons that come here and shit talk my event, and I could sell it and make buku money. I don't know what the Cannon brothers got, but I'm sure it was enough to make them be like, bye, you know. So, and I can't say that I blame them, because the FGC has a tendency to be ungrateful as hell.
Yep.
And they've been ungrateful to me. They've been ungrateful. And I'm talking from personal experience and from things I've just seen.
Yep.
You know, I've talked about some of it in the OBS group.
Yep.
James and I, and the community at large has a tendency to be spoiled and to be like, give me, give me, give me, or you're supposed to, you're supposed to. First of all, have you ever run an event? Have you
Right.
ever done anything remotely to that?
Do you
If
know
not, then you need to
the
shut the
vast
fuck up.
like undertaking, the logistics involved in such an event? People
Yeah.
and people just say things, literally out of their ass. Never even have
Yeah.
been to an event physically. Like how does that work?
Physically, exactly.
You know?
And additionally, have respect for these TOs.
Mhm.
They work really, really hard all year. And there are some that I don't have direct respect to, but I respect them for putting on an event that people enjoy.
Right.
I'll say that.
I'll say that too.
But, they work hard, and all of them aren't doing it for clout. Some of them literally are doing it for the love of the community, and y'all still don't respect that. And it's a shame, because the respect that I see top players get, where people basically like bow to them when they walk in the room. I get idolizing somebody.
Right.
I get that, looking up to somebody, but don't idol worship people.
Mhm.
Like it's weird.
It's very
And
weird.
it's very weird. I've met celebrities that I've wanted to meet my entire life doing my job, and I treat them like people.
Mhm. That's it.
So, that's it. And these gamers are people. Like, I get being, like wanting to be in their position and yada, yada, yada. They not celebrities, though. I'm going to tell you that, too, because they ain't making no celebrity money.
Right.
Ain't nobody in the FGC making celebrity money, so y'all have a seat. But it's just, I really think that the staff, the TOs, the bracket runners, it's so many people, the bracket makers too, because that's a really behind the scenes job that a lot of people don't know about. That's a real specialty thing. People that formulate brackets, that's a whole, it's very difficult.
Yep. I've been on that end for sure, and it's hard.
So have I.
It's hard. It's
very
not fun,
It sure isn't. I've done it at EVO, actually.
Yeah.
So, it's have respect for these people that are behind the scenes, the people that are running the monitors all weekend, the people that are running the cameras all weekend, keeping the feed up, keeping the internet up. Because it feels like the FGC, if something goes wrong, their immediate response is to get angry. Okay, spoiled child, have a fucking seat, because stuff goes wrong, shit happens,
Right.
power goes out, stuff like that happens. Things be out of people's control. And sometimes maybe you need to just sit down, take a breath, and remember where you came from. Because wasn't nobody born a champion?
Right. Yeah,
Be
to get there.
humble
Be humble.
and have respect for people.
I
So
hear that.
That's what I gotta say.
Thank you for that. Thank you for those words. I really appreciate you. Before we go, how do our viewers get to contact you on social media without going into your DMs? Of course, like if you want to,
Right, without going into my DM.
or get your phone number. We're not doing all that. But if they want to just,
Right.
say hi.
So my Twitter is Pyramid Moxxie. Or it should be OBS Pyramid Moxxie, but I'm pretty sure my @ is Pyramid Moxxie. You can find me on there. You can follow me on Blast Show, Twitter, on Instagram. My name is Moxxie @Moxxie Peaches, MOXXIE, and Peaches with a Z instead of an S. On Facebook, you all can join the On Blast Show group, because I am no longer adding like FGC people to my personal Facebook page at all.
Don't blame you.
It's too much, and it's there's a slew of feelings which I'll discuss on the On Blast Show. But I mean it's so those are probably my social medias. Twitter, Instagram, and find the On Blast Show
On Blast Show
group.
Facebook, yes. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Of course. Once again, guys, if you're not catching this live on Twitch or one of our YouTube reels, you can listen to us on the different podcast stations. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts. That being said, this is Rodimus Prime, and I'm going to see you guys next week. I want you guys to say bye to Melanie, a.k.a. Moxxie Peaches, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care. Peace.
This has been a KPB Media Works production.